You know, I don't use the term hidden gem lightly. I feel as if the term relates to a game that, of course, not a lot of people may know about, and it's actually better than what most people thought. And that's basically, you know, an underrated title. I personally only say a game is a hidden gem after I've completed it myself, not just because it's some unknown game under the radar type of game that nobody knows. Some games are just terrible and probably deserve to stay well hidden. And Langrisser 1 and 2 remakes are games that I feel not a lot of people know about or are on the fence about. But I'm here to tell you, yes, they are great games that are going to fill a certain area of time and make you think it was time well spent. Might there be better tactical games out there? Yes, sure, but these are games you get when you know you exhausted that particular pool and want something different to play. Let's jam. Got this soda, Remy boys that know, fast money don't slow, no one can Langrisser 1 and 2 puts you in the shoes of protagonists that are basically trying to restore a world that's been plagued by war and death. And of course, there's a certain dark power that is corrupting important people in the world to make them go to war. The protagonist and his band are out to stop this darkness and put an end to the war using the power of the Langrisser, an immensely powerful sword. Now that all sounds pretty standard for a JRPG, but it's not all that simple. The protagonist starts to question if his methods are the right ones and if his way of doing things is truly the best way to put an end to the conflict. This leads to choices that completely change the outlook of the story and branch off to something entirely different. It's nice to see these choices and the consequences they might have in the story. In one chapter you could be fighting with your party members, but depending on the choice you make after the battle, in the next chapter they could be your enemy and you end up having to fight them or even kill them. And these choices is where Langrisser wanted to skyrocket when it comes to replayability. There are many routes you can take in this game and they have different impacts on the overall story. Thankfully, you can revisit any point in the story and go about battle entirely different or make a different choice to get to another route. I will admit that sometimes I had a bit of trouble figuring out what to do to trigger a different event. Some events were really obvious, like make sure a certain character doesn't die or don't attack a certain enemy. But then there were others that legit threw me for a loop and I had no idea how to get onto the branching path. Luckily, there is a quick save option in battle, so if you think you're about to do something wrong or drastic, you could just save and reload. So since you will be triggering different paths through battle most of the time, let's talk about the battle system. Langrisser 1 and 2 are tactical games on a grid-based map. You can select your main characters, the commanders, and you bring them into battle alongside mercenaries. Commanders and mercs share a special relationship. You see, having commanders and mercs next to each other yields boosted stats, allowing mercs to hit harder if they are within the range of the commander. Also, if your merc is directly next to the commander, they will get healed for some HP at the start of each turn. You're allowed to take mercs into battle as much as your gold will allow you to, and depending on how high the level is of the commander. While the mercs are plentiful, your bread and butter in battles are your commanders. They are much stronger than mercs, and if they fall, then the rest of your mercs will fall as well. This whole system also applies to the enemy. So while you might see a lot of enemies on the map, you might be thinking to yourself, oh man, do I have to take down all these enemies? Well, not really. You can cut a path to the enemy commander and kill him, and well, bam, that's 4 or 5 enemies off the map. Now you can go this way if you want some crowd control, however it's probably best to kill off each enemy individually to gain more experience. Now you can go that way, but I want to say I played 80% of Langrisser 1 and 2 just going for enemy commanders, and I had a relatively easy time with the whole game. So much so that even towards the end of the game I felt I was a bit overpowered. So to each their own, kill everybody or just kill the commander. I don't think there's much of a difference because I feel your commanders are going to be the ones doing the most killing. As I said, commanders are much more powerful than mercs, and once you change them into a stronger class, they become even more powerful. Class changing is pretty simple. Upon leveling up or a unit being the MVP in the battle, you can gain CP, and you can use a CP to change any unit into any class in their class tree. It's often fun to see how crazy a character can get should you choose to learn every class and net every skill. It will make replaying certain chapters to experience all the routes all the more easier and a lot more fun. But other than that, that's really all there is to Langrisser 1 and 2. You make choices that will branch the story off in different directions, you fight battles and gain experience, and when you're not in battle, you can buy equipment and change classes. And that's about it. The tactical gameplay is fun, don't get me wrong, and the story is a bit intriguing enough to get through it, but I feel like the story is there so you can have a game to play. I really didn't care too much about the story or the characters. I felt everything kind of moved a bit fast and I couldn't get attached to the characters. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I'm kind of a different breed when it comes to feeling things about video games, so your mileage in this aspect might actually vary. You might feel more weight to these characters than I did, but I just felt at the end of the day, you didn't spend enough time with them to get any emotional investment. So since I'm sort of sliding into things that I view as negative, let's just continue in that vein, shall we? The enemy AI is kinda simple-minded. Like some of the tactical games I've played, they will all go for the weakest character first, but they will also always move in a way that will protect their commander. Because as I said, if the commander dies, so does the mercs. Once you start to realize this, it becomes pretty easy to call how the enemy is going to move and how you're going to cut your way to the enemy commander. Now this sort of predictability also kinda extends to your party AI, should you choose to use it. You see, the game knew it would be too much of a hassle to command all these units on your turn, so you can use a type of auto battle that will allow mercs to attack according to the order you give out. If you set it to attack, they will move in the best way to attack the enemy and yet still be in the commander's range to get the stat bonus. This is fine, but the problem becomes when you use the command to just move your mercs along on the map, and that map has a lot of walls and obstacles. You see, the AI's primary directive is to get next to the commander as they move at all costs, so much so that if your commander is on one side of a wall and the merc is on the other side of the wall, the merc won't know that there's a wall in the way and won't try to go around said wall. They will just want to get to the commander's command range at all costs. So I found myself having to direct mercs on maps with walls quite a bit. It's not really a big deal, but it is rather laughable when it happens. And another thing I don't like kinda is the magic users. Magic is handled differently in this game. When a unit moves, they can't use any kind of magic in the same turn. So if they are of the magic class, they can either stand where they are and use magic, or move and not use magic in that turn and just attack, which I find really limiting. Magic users become a real drag to use because they will always be lagging behind the others, which yes, a magic user should be in the back lines, but by the time the magic user got within range, my frontline attackers would have already taken care of the threat. It's only towards the late game and me really trying to level up my magic users did I feel magic become really powerful, almost to a point of being broken, which is why I think they put the no moving and using magic in the same turn limit on magic. When magic users get to high enough levels, they start to get access to really large AoE magic attacks that can cripple or outright take out most enemies in a single turn. So at that point, it just becomes fun to use magic, but in the early goings, I honestly felt magic was useless. Even buffs and debuffs were useless if you kept up with the equipment at the start of each chapter. And really, that's where my gripes with Langrisser 1 and 2 come to an end. I really like the visual style of the game, especially the remake art style. I was debating if I should play with classic art or remake art, but the remake art I felt resonated well with me. The battles look flashy or are nice to watch, but when you have a lot of enemies on screen and they're all attacking, you're gonna want to skip the attack animations, which I think is the case for most tactical games after some time anyway. I do feel the games are bare bones, but the different routes you can take and all the classes you can learn keeps you playing the game for a long time, and the tactical combat is fun. I found myself constantly coming back to the game just for it. But if you're expecting anything else outside of combat in Langrisser 1 and 2, well, you're not really gonna get much. So are Langrisser 1 and 2 hidden gems? Well, unfortunately, there are two things this game is missing in my opinion, of course, to classify the game as such. The first being the story and the characters really do miss a beat. I feel as though a lot of points in the game just happen. At the end of one route, for example, the characters just say a rebellion has started and you don't know why said rebellion started. You can probably guess why, but I would have liked to have seen the events preceding it. And why are my two characters in this rebellion just standing in the middle of the field by themselves? Where is the rest of my army? I'll admit, a lot of things of that sort kind of happen a fair amount of times in the routes that I played. It could be that not all routes are not given as much detail as others. Also, a little bit of a sidebar here with how many routes there are. I'm not surprised this game doesn't have any English voice acting, as it would have been a lot of work to voice every single scene in every single route. And really, this game just feels like a real budget title that comes in at the brand new price of $50 as of right now. And that's another thing I think is missing, which is weird. It's value. You do get a lot of content, but only in replaying maps over and over and over again to get different routes. You'll be spending a lot of time doing these routes should you choose, but that's all you're really doing. So I kind of feel like it's like a cheap shot to get replayability, especially where how bare bones the story kind of feels at some points. I can't really give this game a pass in that aspect. So do I recommend Langrisser 1 and 2 at the end of the day? Yes, I would give Langrisser 1 and 2 the ranking of a C rank. This is a C rank RPG. These are good games to play to pass the time, and if you are looking for a good tactical battle system, this will suffice. Anyway guys, that is it for this video. Hit that like button if you enjoyed it. Subscribe, of course, if you're new to the channel. Join Notification Brigade so you can know when I'm live streaming or when a new video is coming. That's all for now guys. I'll see you all soon. Peace.